You can actually have up to 6 directors of the SMSF, and so the balance that we are talking about, that 200, it is a combined balance.
Yeah.
And again, the fee doesn't change regardless of how many members you do have in the SMSF.
Yeah, fantastic. That's a really good point. With setting up an SMSF, is there sort of guidelines that clients should be aware of?
Ideally, and based around the ATO guidelines, the minimum deposit would be around that 200,000.
Yep.
Look, we do have clients with more and a little less, depending on what their investment plan is moving forward. And again, that's something we would discuss in our initial phone call.
If you could give one piece of advice to someone about to start their SMSF, what would that be?
I would say don't.
Welcome to SMSF Insider, where we help busy professionals to gain financial independence using an SMSF. Hi, I'm Troy, founder of Blue Chip SMSF Services. And over the last 20 years, I've helped thousands of Aussies manage the complexities of self-managed super funds. And in this podcast, I'll answer your questions, break down the myths, so you can take charge of your financial freedom. Let's get into it. Just a quick disclaimer and just a reminder that this is not personal advice. So make sure you speak with a licensed advisor before making any investment decision. G'day guys, and welcome to this edition of SMSF Insider, where we'll be chatting with our number one customer service rep, Tara. Tara, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
Very good. So when someone decides to set up an SMSF with us, what's the very first step that they go through?
So usually it's just a very quick 15-minute phone call where we introduce ourselves, we confirm the client's eligibility, we discuss, what their goals are, and we outline the process. It's also a good opportunity for the client to ask questions before they actually go ahead and commit.
Yeah. And what are some of the questions that clients are asking when they're establishing the fund? What's the sort of typical sort of question?
Usually some of the questions are, what sort of balance do I need? We say to clients, look, there's a lot of mixed information out there, but we do say to clients, 150,000 is a good starting point. We do have clients that set up with more or less depending on what their investment goals are.
Yeah. So I know the government or the ATO has a guideline of 200,000. I know most of our clients have in excess of that. But what I know, we do get some fantastic, a lot of our feedback from clients when they're talking to you and going through the process. Is always an incredible and amazing feedback that we get. So, where does that sort of stem from? Is that just obviously is it the caring nature? How is it?
Look, I think it comes from as a business, we're very customer centric, and we have super fast turnaround times.
Yeah.
So each client is allocated a client liaison officer like myself, and my job is to hold their hand, guide them through the process, and just make sure that they understand each step of the way, and that they're not sort of just jumping in the deep end.
Yeah, yeah. And are you finding that clients are surprised with firstly the level of hand holding through the process, and obviously and also the speed in which the fund is established? You're finding clients get sort of shocked with how simple the process is?
Absolutely. And that's what we pride ourselves on, is the fast turnaround. We have such a large volume of self-managed super funds and therefore years of experience. So we do really have the process down pat, and it's a lot of the behind the scenes things that, make it a very simple and fast setup.
Yeah, I guess we do have an incredible team, you being one of those team members, but we also have lots of team members in the background that help us set
Absolutely.
up the fund. They really are superstars, aren't they?
They definitely are. And look, a lot of feedback I get is clients that have been on our website, they've seen our 5-star reviews, and everybody that has set up an SMSF with Blue Chip has had a great experience.
Yeah, I've noticed, as I said before, the feedback that we get from specifically the clients that you deal with, it's always 5 stars. So maybe where do you think that sort of comes from? Is it the caring
Personally,
mother nature that you've got? I know you've got
I think I get a little bit too much credit, to be honest. I think a lot of the credit should go to the admin team behind the scenes. But in saying that, I've always come from a customer service background, and I always do put the customer first.
Yep.
Being obviously our clients put a lot of trust in us. That we are dealing with their money, setting them up for their future. So I guess they need to know that they're trusting a company that's reputable, transparent, and competent in what they do.
Yep. Yeah, fantastic. And do you think? I know we've both got kids. You've got kids as well. And do you think that caring sort of part sort of comes across when you're talking to clients? Do you think that sort of helps as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the process from start to finish can take anywhere from a couple of days to 4 weeks sort of thing. And during that time, you do build rapport with the customers. I feel like we have a personal relationship by the end of that process, and they do know that they can contact me for anything. So just having that personal or first point of contact is also really beneficial. They're not just dealing with somebody via email or live chat.
Yeah, no, that's great. I guess that's what differentiates, the business model that we have with real people to talk to, as opposed to, going to an online provider and having to email someone and not being able to talk to somebody, being able to actually pick up the phone and have a real conversation with a real person.
That's right.
I guess helps the overall experience.
Absolutely.
What are some of the other sort of common questions that clients, or even not just questions, but what are their sort of fears or that the clients have, or even challenges that they may have had, or just anything that you could sort of add in there around the sort of clients and what's sort of made them take the step forward in setting up an SMSF?
Okay. Look, a lot of clients think that the initial setup cost is expensive and out of pocket, when in fact that's not the case. So what we do is we take our setup fees once the SMSF is established and the rollover's in. So once they realise they don't have those outlays up front, they're more inclined to go ahead with the process. And a couple of questions or concerns that I get, clients are worried that it's going to be very complex. They'll have to deal with the ATO, and if they don't meet certain regulations, they could get in trouble. And I just reassure them that by engaging a professional business like Blue Chip, we actually take all that responsibility and the headache out of having an SMSF, and make it as easy and manageable as possible.
Yeah. And what would your advice be to sort of someone that's perhaps sort of sitting on the fence and maybe thinking about setting up an SMSF, perhaps doesn't have much experience and needs a bit of hand-holding? Would you recommend that they go to an online provider, or what would your...
I would suggest that they give us a call, so we can have that conversation with them and answer any questions that they might have. If there's anything they're unsure of, then we can give them some clarity around that.
Yep.
And again, our job is to guide them through the process and make it as easy as possible for them. So a lot of clients are surprised in terms of how easy it is to set up a self-managed super fund. That's a lot of feedback that I get toward the end. I didn't realise it'd be this easy. I wish I had done this a long time ago.
Yeah, fantastic. Yep. With setting up an SMSF, is there sort of a minimum balance that sort of clients should be aware of, or some guidelines that clients should be aware of when setting up an SMSF?
Yeah, good question, and it is one that I get quite often. So ideally, and based around the ATO guidelines, the minimum deposit would be around that $200,000.
Yep.
Look, we do have clients with much more and a little less, depending on what their investment plan is moving forward. And again, that's something we would discuss in our initial phone call.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so with that, the average is around that sort of 200,000 and more balance, right. And perhaps clients may have a little bit less, but they've got plans to make additional contributions to the fund to top it up, and
that's exactly right.
And I guess it becomes a bit more cost effective. The more you have in super, it does become more cost effective with that flat fee structure or that flat fee model that we have with the
Absolutely.
SMSF, as opposed to, I know with the retail funds and the industry funds, they're all percentage based. So the more you have in super, the more you pay in fees.
Correct.
And of course, you don't have that flexibility to invest in property and
Yes.
crypto and bullion and all the other different asset classes that are out there that perhaps you can't get access to with a retail or an industry fund.
Absolutely. And on that note as well, so the fee itself, the $199, it's regardless of how many members. So what we do is we set you up in the same formality as a company, and you can actually have up to 6 directors of the SMSF. And so the balance that we are talking about, that 200, it is a combined balance.
Yeah.
And again, the fee doesn't change regardless of how many members you do have in the SMSF.
Yeah, fantastic. That's a really good point. So, yeah, you can have up to obviously 6 members with an SMSF. It doesn't matter whether you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. That fee remains the same regardless of how many members there are. So
Exactly.
that's a really good point. And I guess you do get economies of scale when you combine all those super funds together or member balances together.
Absolutely.
It does become a bit more cost effective.
That's right. And then the other thing is to, as you say, in an industry fund, the higher your balance, the higher your fees. Whereas in an SMSF, you could have 200,000 or 2 million and still pay the same amount, which is the $199 a month.
Yeah, that's great. And of course, with an SMSF, obviously you've got that flexibility to invest in things you couldn't otherwise do with an industry fund or retail fund.
That's right.
So you are a little bit hamstrung when you are in an industry fund, for example, with limited investment options.
Exactly.
If they want to invest in managed funds, well, you can do that with a retail fund or an industry fund. But if you want some gearing, you want to buy property, or you want to buy some of these alternative asset classes like crypto or physical bullion or industrial shed or commercial building for your business to lease from your business, you can't do that with any other fund but an SMSF. Right. So what's your experience been like with the clients that perhaps you might have been dealing with in the early stages, and then a year or 2 ago, and then fast forwarding now, has it been sort of a positive experience that are they sort of generally happy that they've set up the fund from a couple of years ago? Have you sort of, once you're touching base with clients, are you sort of finding that they're glad they took that step?
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes, I will speak with a client and say, I haven't heard anything. And I usually say, no news is good news. We're busy in the background, doing the auditing, all the compliance, preparing the tax returns and so forth.
Yeah.
And in terms of that, once that tax return's ready, we simply send it over to the client for signature, they sign it, and then we actually lodge it with the ATO. So again, the process is just as easy as it possibly can be.
Yeah, well, that's great. So yeah, I know we do have a pretty robust and big team that works in the background to grinds away and make sure all these tax returns and these audits are done on time and before ahead of time to make sure that the fund remains compliant. You're finding typically the feedback from clients has been positive with that regard and getting the return done for them and making sure the fund's compliant.
Absolutely. And look, in the 2.5, almost 3 years that I've been with Blue Chip, I haven't had one client complaining about any of the processes, so everybody's extremely happy.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. I guess that's reflective in all of the Google reviews that people, all of your clients that have given us Google reviews. I know they've all been exceptionally happy, and
absolutely,
it's been a real. You've been a real asset to the business in that regard.
Thank you very much.
Honestly,
yeah.
Just quickly, guys, if you're a busy professional, fed up with traditional super funds and overwhelmed by the setup of your SMSF, we can help. Book in a call with my team using the link in the show notes, and let's build your future on your terms. Now, back to the episode. What are some of the things that might hold up when we are establishing a fund for a client? What are some things that might hold up the fund and might slow down the process?
Usually the establishment is very quick. Providing we have all the relevant information, we can actually establish an SMSF within about 24 hours and have those documents, the deed and so forth, posted to the client. Sometimes there could be a hold up with the bank, but we are proactively making sure that that gets sorted as quick as possible so that the account is ready, or if not close to ready, by the time we get those documents back. The other thing that can actually hold up the process is the ABN, going back a stage. The ATO sometimes likes to do their own background checks on the clients just to make sure that there aren't any outstanding debts, and they haven't previously had an SMSF. So in some cases that can cause a couple of days delay.
Yep.
And then the third thing is the rollover itself. That process is sort of out of our control, but
Yeah.
again, we do have processes in place to keep things moving.
Yeah. And what are some of the supporting documentation, or what if someone is setting up an SMSF? What talk us through a bit about the process and in terms of like what documents are required in terms of the actual application and supporting docs.
Look, that part is very straightforward and simple. Say, for example, you said to me today, yes, Tara, let's get the ball rolling. I send over an email. It's not even a very long email. It basically just requests 100 points of ID, and then there's a series of questions, such as, are you currently bankrupt? Do you have any outstanding debts? Are you an Australian citizen? And so forth. Once the client has responded to that email, we then prepare a one-page establishment form, which is sent over for an e-signature. And once we get that back, usually on the same day, we can then go ahead and apply for the APN and prepare the paperwork and get that ready to be sent out. So all of that generally happens within about 24 hours.
Yeah, fantastic. And with once the application comes back, is that when you're sort of jumping on the phone and just confirming all the details are correct and
That's right.
just making sure that the name is spelled correctly, and obviously making sure all that information is all correct before generating those trust documents?
Absolutely. Because they are legal binding documents, we do need to make sure that everything is 100% correct. So once we receive the establishment form back, it's then my role to follow up, confirm all the information, and once that's been done, I would inform admin that they're ready to proceed with the preparation of the paperwork.
Yeah, fantastic. And so that paperwork is then express posted to the client.
Correct.
Once the client receives the all the documentation, what happens at that point? Are you sort of chatting to the client and then sort of perhaps answering any questions that they may have before signing them and sending them back?
Absolutely. So normally what happens is I will schedule a follow-up call with the client, but I do also mention that if they receive the paperwork and go through everything, they're welcome to reach out to me beforehand, and I'm happy to go through the documents with them just to make sure that they understand everything. Once they're satisfied, they sign each page of the document. There is only one form that they have to physically fill in, which is their binding death beneficiary nomination form. And once everything's been signed, then they can pop it back in the replied paid express post envelope and send that back to us. The day we get the documents back, depending on which account we use, we will either have the account already set up, or we will set that up within 24 hours or so, and then from there we're ready to call for the rollover.
Yeah, fantastic. So it's a very streamlined process by the sound of it. Once you've called the rollovers, obviously the super funds can they can either send them quickly, or they can sit around and hold the funds back and can slow the process up.
Yes.
What happens in that regard when a super fund is sitting back and they're not sort of releasing the funds into the client's SMSF? What are the processes in place for that?
So the normal rollover time is anywhere from 3 days to 3 weeks. Look, if it's approaching 2 weeks and the rollover hasn't come through, then we would proactively contact the industry fund to find out if there is anything that could potentially be holding the rollover up. And in some cases, it could be, the account may be in like a maiden name or something like that, and the ID's not matching, so forth. But they're the sort of things that could possibly cause delays.
Yep.
But in most cases, as I said, rollovers do happen fairly quickly, and within about 3 weeks of receiving the documents back, the funds are available in the SMSF to then be invested.
Yeah, fantastic. And you're finding once the funds are sort of sitting in the account, the client is then ready to invest. And I guess you're dealing with clients that are investing in a whole range of different assets, whether it be property or they might be investing in initial public offerings or shares or unlisted assets or crypto or bullion. So I guess you're dealing with clients with a whole different array of different types of investment options.
That's right.
And how does that, I guess, differ from your previous roles previously in customer service? Has it sort of opened your eyes in terms of, has it made you sort of want to have an SMSF and invest in?
Absolutely. Look, I've actually always wanted to have an SMSF even before I started working with Blue Chip. When I initially looked into it, I thought, oh my gosh, it's too hard. I don't really have time to do all of that. I didn't know at that stage that there were companies like Blue Chip that essentially manage the fund and take the hassle out of having an SMSF.
Yeah.
So
There isn't anyone like us.
no. So yeah, look, it's definitely opened my eyes up to a lot more opportunity. And, I would recommend, to anybody that is looking at doing it, reach out, ask the questions, and we can certainly get the ball rolling for you.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, in terms of setup, what's been the quickest setup that you've taken care of so far?
I think it was 13 days from start to finish. So providing everything goes through as planned, so the ABN's issued instantaneously, we post those documents out express post, which is always a given.
Yeah.
Once the clients receive the paperwork, if they're proactive and get that signed straight away and sent back to us, then everything happens quite quickly. And again, some of those rollovers can come through in 3 days. So in those cases, then it's a very quick turnaround, under 2 weeks. But the average is 3 to 4.
Yeah. Fantastic.
In terms of horror stories, we do get a lot of clients that attempt DIY setups, and more often than not, they end up having to engage somebody like us, and in the long run, it ends up costing them more money. So a lot of those clients have said, I wish I just came to you from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. I know I've talked about this in the past where clients, have tried to set it up themselves, and it is a complex structure to set up on your own, regardless of whether you've had experience or certainly if you haven't had experience, it is can be quite difficult and something you don't want to, something you want to get right.
Absolutely.
So, what's your advice there to someone that think about doing it themselves?
Yeah, look, I think it's important to engage a professional that actually know what they're doing. They've got years of experience. That way, you know that you're meeting all your requirements when it does come to any obligations through the ATO and so forth. And look, to be honest with you, the ongoing administration fee is probably equivalent to what you're paying in an industry fund anyway, depending on your balance. And the difference is with a self-managed super fund, the ATO will actually let you claim any ongoing expenses. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it probably works out better anyway.
What do you think the biggest hesitation or the biggest fear the clients have setting up an SMSF?
I think that their biggest fear would be the complexity of it, and they believe that it would be a lot of work. But again, if you did engage an administrator to take care of that for you, there's really little to no work at all. All the client needs to do is handle the investment side of things, and we take care of everything else.
Yeah, fantastic. Why do you think trust plays such a big role when clients choose who to set up their SMSF with?
Yeah, so again, we are dealing with their money at the end of the day, which is designed to set them up for their future and their retirement. So I guess they do need to trust that we are going to be, competent in what we do, very transparent, and they need to know that they're dealing with a reputable business because, again, at the end of the day, it is their money.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. If you could give one piece of advice to someone about to start their SMSF, what would that be?
I would say don't DIY and Google. It's best just to pick up the phone, make a call and ask the questions. And then if it is something that you're interested in doing, I would suggest engaging somebody like Blue Chip to take care of it for you.
Yeah, fantastic. Don't DIY and don't DUI.
Yeah, that's right.
Someone that has, say, less than the 200,000 in super, can someone still have an SMSF that perhaps doesn't have 200,000 in super?
Essentially, yes. I mean, at the end of the day, it is self-managed. It's not the recommended minimum as per ATO guidelines. However, we do have a lot of clients, especially those that are looking at investing in, say, crypto, that do start off with a smaller balance. They may typically only roll in a portion of their balance. So say, for example, they had 300,000 with an industry fund. They might only decide to roll in 80 or so thousand to invest that in crypto. And then obviously they've got that diversity there as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I know we've talked about the super funds that perhaps they might be holding onto the money and not rolling those funds over.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that sort of slows down the process, like perhaps clients being away or they're not signing the documents in time, or is there anything else there that might slow down the process?
Yeah, usually it's, as I said, it's either the ABN. We're just waiting on that to get issued. That can sometimes cause a couple of days delay. It could also be the industry fund delaying the process, or the clients, time poor and that sort of thing, not getting around to getting their documents signed in a timely manner. But obviously I would be following up just to make sure, that's being done and asking if there's anything that I can assist with to keep the ball rolling for them.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, that's a wrap, Tara. Thanks for coming on the show. And
okay, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And if there's anyone that is thinking about setting up an SMSF or would like Blue Chip to assist their clients in general, there's going to be a link in the box below. So feel free to click on there and shoot us a message, and one of the team members, perhaps even Tara, will get in touch and see how we can help. Thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of SMSF Insider. If you got value from this, make sure you subscribe so you never miss the strategies we share to help you take control of your financial future. Find us on socials at Blue Chip SMSF or book a call with our team to see if we can help you.